So originally this was supposed to be a Monster Monday movie, because I did salvage for Slasher Sunday, which is like this ultra, ultra low budget slasher film, or, well, I consider it a slasher film, that I feel like no one ever, 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 ever talks about. I've never heard a single fucking person mention it. And I was like, oh man, I want to give this movie some moments, you know. And this is another film right here, an American ghost story, that I randomly rented from Redbox years ago. And the movie was made for $10,000. And I just thought it was really cool, really clever for utilizing the budget that they had and keeping it kind of one location. And, you know, it's all just everyone who works on the movie also like acts in the movie. So it's like, you know, the director and the writer and everybody are like the characters in the films. And so it's a very tiny crew of people working with a very tiny budget and taking a very simplistic idea and making it work. And so I was sitting there after salvage and was like, what's this, you know, what's a movie I want to also do that's like micro budget that I think no one ever talks about? So that's kind of like one of the main points of the channel, was to, you know, put a spotlight on films that otherwise would never ever even get talked about. And an American ghost story, which I think this was also called like Revenant or something, originally. And they changed this title, I'm sure, to play off of an American horror story, maybe, or American Werewolf in London, or, you know, I don't know what the hell they were trying to play off of there, but I think they were trying to play off of what was maybe cool in the moment. The title itself, not a great title, but whatever, I don't care. They did it to sell the film, I'm sure, and it didn't work because no one ever talks about the damn movie. But I think it's a cool flick, man. I really, really do. I'm a big fan of this one. I rewatched it a couple nights ago, in prep for this, just kind of seeing like how it would hold up, because I hadn't seen it since I read it that day at Redbox. I bought a copy of it shortly thereafter and was like always meaning to go back and rewatch it, because I was like, wow, this is such a cool flick for like friends to make. Like, if my buddies brought me this movie and were like, dude, we made a movie, and they showed it to me, I'd be like, this is a kick-ass movie. Holy shit, how the hell did you guys pull this off? This is pretty good. You know? Like, the production value is obviously low, but, you know, honestly, I don't feel like it held the film back that much. It very, very much feels like a low-budget movie. It very much feels, you know, restricted to its budget, whatever. But I've said this a million times in the past, so I apologize for beating a dead, you know, fucking reiterating myself, beating a dead horse, whatever. But, like, I've always been that guy who doesn't like excuses. Like, when it comes to film. Like, oh, we didn't have the budget. Oh, we didn't have this. Oh, we didn't have that. I remember I was watching an interview with Quentin Tarantino recently, and someone came up and they were asking him and Robert Rodriguez. This is an older video, but something I just watched recently. And they were saying essentially, like, with all the competition out there, like, do you think it's harder to get a film out these days? And they were like, yeah, that's a good question. You know, there is more competition. He's like, but there's also a lot more shit. Like, a lot of people bring a lot more shit to the table. And what he says is, like, if you make a kick-ass fucking movie and you bring it in, people are going to notice. Period. If you make a kick-ass fucking movie, then people will take notice. You know? There is no excuses, because your script is free. You can come up with whatever you want for free. Now, executing that with the budget you have is where the creativity comes in. And that's just it. That's what I think this movie does so cool. It takes the most basic of concepts when it comes to ghosts. Like, what's the most basic concept you know of as ghosts? Sheets, right? Sheet ghosts. Like in Beetlejuice or something, where you see fucking literal sheets over a human figure walking around. That is like the basic level of ghosts that you can possibly imagine. Somehow they took that concept and they turned it into something that I find genuinely creepy at times throughout the film. The atmosphere in this film is really good for me. Like, the acting is all fine. Like, these are all, amateur actors, amateur filmmakers, and I think that they fucking nail this. I do. Like, for the film it is, I'm just really surprised at the quality of it. Now, a lot of people watch this and think it's trash. Okay, that's fine. You can't win everyone over. But I've always wanted to make a movie. I do always want to make a movie. I've always wanted to make a review on this film, to shine some kind of a light on it, because I think it deserves more attention than it gets. I think that it deserves a little bit more praise than it will ever get. I'm not going to change almost anyone's mind. Maybe some of you will check it out, and that's awesome, and that's the best I can do. So that's what I'll go with. But man, I just wish that this would have gotten a little more attention than it did. But I'll tell you, I've been in horror groups for years, and I've been someone who's extremely active and well known in those groups that I've been in. And I couldn't get anyone to give a fuck about this movie no matter how hard I tried. I would talk about this movie pretty often for a little bit there, trying to get people to watch it. And I think I got one person to watch it. One. And I had to really get on their ass about it. Like, have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet? They're like, oh, I'll get to it. Yeah, no, okay. I rented it from Redbox. I have it. And then they would be like, oh, I took it back because I didn't have time. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Why can't I get anyone to watch this movie? What is up with this film? So, anyway, 7 minutes in. Yeah. So I'm going to talk some spoilers really quick. So if you haven't seen the movie, check it out. It's just a basic story of a guy who rents a house that he knows murders took place in. He's trying to get proof that it's haunted so that he can write a book. His girlfriend moves in with him. It's the first time they've lived together. And, it's just some strange occurrences happen. Now, this film could have easily, because this came out around the time of Paranormal Activity and whatnot, when this was popularized. This movie could have easily went the found footage route. That would have been the simple thing to do, because that's the cheaper thing to do. That's that gives you a lot of excuses, whatever. But they went for the more traditional, way of filmmaking, and I think that's very much, its strength here. I do not think I'd like this movie as anywhere near as much if it was found footage. But it easily could have been found footage. He could have just been setting cameras up around the house to capture the ghosts, right? It would have made the most sense in the world. It would have been a total Paranormal Activity ripoff. But this isn't a Paranormal Activity ripoff. If it was found footage, though, and they did it exactly the same, it would feel like one. But because they made it a traditional film, I think that it totally distanced itself from. Anyway, all right, so sheet ghosts. I love that. I love that they went for that. Would I live in a house where murders took place? Probably. I definitely don't believe that it's going to be haunted. I don't believe in hauntings at all. Maybe something will change my mind one day, and people will comment below, oh, Jason, I've had experiences. The funny thing is most people, when they say that, they tell me their stories. 99 times out of 100, anytime anybody's ever told me a haunting story, it is the most unimpressive story I've ever heard. And I'm sitting there like, you could have at least jazzed it up a little bit. You could have embellished a little bit so that this story even seems slightly believable. When I say believable, though, I mean believable in the sense of you think that was a haunting? Not believable of the sense of oh my God, that story's so over the top, there's no way it's true. If someone told you exactly what happened from the 13 Ghosts remake or something, it was that's what happened to me. You'd be okay, make it believable. I'm not talking about that kind of believable. I'm talking about the kind of believable where I'm sitting there in awe that they believe off of what their experience was. Where I'm make it believable to me that you actually think there's ghosts. Because it's always like, I saw something out of the corner of my eye in the room. You saw something out of the corner of your eye in the room. Do you have any idea how many times I think I see things out of the corner of my fucking eye? It's like vision distortion. It's like your fucking vision has little lapses where you see a bright spot sometimes. Or like the sun hits something as you turn your head and it looks like a glimmer, but then it's not there when you look back. Oh my God, it must be a ghost. Proof! 100% I've changed. I'm a changed man. Their fucking story. I felt a presence in the room, Jason. You just don't understand. I can't explain it to you. But I could feel something in that room. There was a presence there. That's your proof. That's your fucking proof. There was a presence that you could feel. Get the fuck out of here. They're like, irrefutable, man. You would be changed forever if you were there. I heard a noise in the room. Gotta be a ghost. 100%. The fucking stories, please, if you're going to tell me a story below, I'm not getting, okay, it seems like I'm getting mad here. I'm just, what would be the right word? Not frustrated seems a little ridiculous, but annoyed that people come at me with these like stories to prove me wrong. Like, oh, Jason, you just don't get it. Like, you're such an idiot. You're so close-minded. It's real, and let me tell you what, 100% it's real. And they'll go on in the comments. I've seen it many times. And they'll tell me these stories, and I sit there and I go, could you just maybe ramp it up a little bit so it just even seems conceivable that you believe that that's true? Like, fuck, man. Like, I tripped over something, and then when I look back, there was nothing there. Must have been a ghost. And it's like, or you're clumsy. There's a couple explanations here. One of them is supernatural, and the other one is you being an idiot. And by the way that you told this story, I'm going to go with the latter. Anyway, okay, moving on. If you got a story, make sure that it seems credible. That's all I'm saying. All right. I like that they build in the sheet thing into the film. Like, the bodies were covered by sheets by the killer in the movie. So then they come back as sheet ghosts. I love it. It's simple. It's quick. It's witty. There you go. Very, very fucking easy explanation. Doesn't need 3,000 fucking words of exposition. Nothing. It's just one little quick line in the film, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. That's why they're ghosts with sheets on them. Got it. Perfect. Makes sense to the story. Makes sense. Perfect. You know? And then you've got an explanation for why you're using something as simplistic as sheets over a human body. It's super simplistic, yet effective. So, very, very, very cute, very wise, in my opinion, when it comes to the script. And I like how his buddy comes over and he has like all these excuses for why a girl won't work out for him. We've seen this before in the past, like in Shallow Hal, when was it Jason Alexander has like the hottest chick ever come up to him, and they're like dating, and Jack Black's like, what's wrong with this one? And he's like, well, her ring toe's longer than her like big toe or something. And this girl is like the cutest, hottest girl on earth riding up to him, and he's this frumpy fucking looking dude. Like, he's nothing appealing about this guy, balding, fat, just not attractive at all. And this amazing girl that every guy would fucking fall over themselves to impress comes up, and she has like concert tickets to the Beatles with like Eric Clapton sitting in for John Lennon, like the perfect woman. And he's just like, nah, I can't, because one toe is longer than the other. There's people like that. They'll find any excuse in the book to not be with someone awesome. And people think that that's me. Some people I know are like, oh, Jason will find something wrong with everybody. But I always tell my friends, okay, if that's true, and I'm asking my close friends here who have met most of the girls that I've dated. I'll be like, all right, if that's true, tell me which one. Go ahead. I did this with my dad. I did this with my brother. I did this with one of my best friends. I was like, all right, if that's true, please. Who? Who do you think was perfect for me that I made up excuses to get out of the relationship? Go ahead. I'm going to wait here. Go ahead. I'll give you a fucking full minute to think on it. Or longer. Call me tomorrow and tell me. Who? Who did I fucking leave that was perfect for me and I blew it? No one. No one. You want to know why? Because if some rad ass chick came around that was perfect for me, not saying that the chicks in the past that I've dated aren't rad. I'm sure they are. And they can be, but not for me. And that's fine. You know, they ended up being rad for someone else, and a lot of them are married now and happy, and that's awesome. But they weren't good for me. And knowing me and my friends, I'm always like, which one of those girls was perfect for me? And not a motherfucking one of them could come up with a single name. They're like, well, you know, I'm just saying, man, you know, you just really picky. Okay, I'm picky, really? Because I fucking date everyone who comes around that I find even remotely attractive. I try a lot of people out. It's not like I'm leaving, like I'm just being like, oh no, not her, not her. Now I am, but for years I would just kind of date anyone who came around and would hang out with them and be like, you know what, I'm going to give them a chance. I'm not going to worry about how they present themselves. I'm not going to worry about how they look, you know, this and that. I'm going to date all different age ranges, ethnicities, all these different backgrounds, all these different everything. And then they come in and I'd try and I'd be like, this isn't working. And my friends were like, dude, this isn't working. You got to leave. She's not right for you. And then they'll come at me later and be like, oh, you're just too picky. I'm too picky? Fuck you. But it was just funny to watch in this where the guy's making up the excuses for the perfect chick that he's with. And I'm like, that's how my friends perceive me. That's not how I am. I feel like 90% of my channel is just personal stories about me. But that's what people seem to like. It's not why I do it. I honestly don't even realize I'm doing it until the end of my rants, and then I'm like, oh God, this is the rant that all the people who usually like this shit are sitting there like, okay, Jason, this is one we really don't care about. Well, too bad. Too fucking bad. And then like he throws the basketball out and then it rolls back and he throws it back out and it comes back. Just subtle things like that in this. There's a lot of like subtle creepiness, like the toy that crawls out. It's all things that we've seen before, but the way it's executed is good to me. Like I really like the setups for things in here. I like that the character's named is Paul Anderson, obviously after Paul Thomas Anderson. Any filmmaker, wannabe filmmaker, is going to have a love affair with Paul Anderson. So that makes sense. And it's definitely not Paul W.S. Anderson. I'm going to tell you that shit right now. Unless this guy's like the biggest Mortal Kombat fan. And or maybe he made it Paul Anderson so he could say it's either. I like how there's a moment in this movie that really kind of speaks to like everything I think about people who say they want to see a haunting. I think it's perfect. He talks to somebody and they're like, have you seen anything yet? And he's like, oh man, he's like bummed out that he hasn't seen anything. And they're like, do you really want to see something? Do you really want to be attacked? This and that. And he's like, well, no. And it's like, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's like roller coasters or something. You want the thrill and the idea that something could happen to you, but if something happened, you would not want it to happen. You want to jump out of a plane with the fear that maybe the chute won't open, but there's not a fucking bit of you that does not want the chute to open. It's just the thrill of it possibly opening. And I think that's like ghost hunting. It's like you want the thrill that something might actually be seen, that some crazy grave encounters thing might happen, but you don't really want it to happen. Like you'd be fucking running for the hills if it actually happened. So I like that they kind of address that in here. It's like he's disappointed he hasn't seen anything, and then the guy's like, do you really want to be seen? Do you really want to fucking be attacked? Do you really? And he's like, well, no. He's like, but I do. Like, I want to see something, but I don't. You know, it's funny. That's how these kinds of things are. It's like, hey, more of the point he's trying to make is like, I don't want to be attacked. I don't want to be harmed, obviously. But I want to see something for the book. And it's like, yeah, you want a very tailored experience. Like, I want them to just come out in front of my cameras and dance and talk to me and be friendly and nice and Casper, you know. I don't want the 6,000 other scenarios that could happen. I want this very, very specific scenario to happen. Nothing else. And then his girlfriend has one single thing happen that's terrifying. Absolutely. All the cupboards open up on themselves, like on themselves, just like in Paranormal Activity too. I don't know if this came out before or after. I want to say it came out maybe before, but I can't remember. Anyway, regardless, it's really creepy. It's really effective. It's a cheap, awesome. It's still hard to do though. I mean, you know, it'd still be kind of a hard thing to pull off, but they still did it, and it's effective. And she immediately gets the fuck up and leaves. It's like, I'm not staying here. And he begs her, and she's like, all right, like, I'll stay the night. And then when he wakes up, she's gone. And she never comes back. We never see her again in the entire film. Awesome. That's awesome. Smart girl. I like that. The character is smart. She's like, this is the character that everyone's always begging for. You know? There was like, dude, who the fuck would stay there? They would get out of the house. The second anything went wrong, the chick would be gone. You have that character in this movie. Bye-bye. Okay, I saw enough of what I need to see. I'm now, if what happens in that scene, you have that story to tell me below. You were in the kitchen and all the cupboards exploded open, every single one of them, and drawers started slowly opening on their own. And then you went back in and you checked every single thing for mechanisms and shit that you weren't looking for, like your friends didn't set you up, and you found zero, nothing. And then and then the other stuff where the guy fucking sees like a person inside a sheet, and then the fucking, like, he pulls the covers off the bed. There's like someone laying there in the bed with him, and he pulls the covers off, and there's no one there. Proof, okay? Then you got proof. You got a story like that, then I'll fucking believe you. Now, I'm gonna be skeptical on my beliefs because your words are. But I'm gonna say, like, if I saw that, then I'd be like, that's proof enough for me. But that's the kind of shit I'd have to see to be a believer. And then another thing, he goes and he talks to someone who lived there before, and the wife who's experiencing all these things, the husband isn't experiencing these things, and the husband ends up leaving her because he thinks she's fucking crazy. And they're still broken up, and everyone sees her as a nutcase, and she knows it to be true. And I'm like, that's awesome. This is exactly the kind of shit that you want to see in these movies. Like, where the husband's just like, and you see it here and there, but the husband always takes the wife, and they're like, all right, fine, like, we'll move, and we'll do this, and we'll do, and then something always ends up happening to him, and he becomes a believer too. But not in this scenario. She's like, oh no, he bailed. He took my kid. They took everything from me. Like, the house just likes fucking with you. Great stuff there. I like that. You know, her acting and her craziness in the opening of her sequences it's a little over the top, but for the most part, she's fine. Everyone in this movie is totally fine. I think their performances are fine. The friendships, the relationships, all that stuff. I think it works. Like, it's very amateur. It's not great acting, but it's fine. It's adequate. And, you know, it sets up for everything else that happens in the movie. The fucking chair just sliding into the room by itself like Tom Cruise in Risky Business. Get the fuck out of here. I'd be gone out of that house. But this guy needs it to give him a reason. And then I like how a flashlight is like moving around the house and he's following the flashlight. Get the fuck out of here. No way. I actually really like the music in this movie as well. I think it amplifies the sequences. And I like that he's using the sheet to kind of throw it over the invisible body in the movie, and then he finally, like, it lands on someone in the room. That's really scary looking sequence. Really cool stuff. And I like how the ghost can kind of just move his arm or whatever, and every object in the house he can manipulate. That's one hell of a power. And then he actually gets to look up under the sheet, and there's nothing in there. And the sheet's just like, you want to talk about making someone a believer. And then they have even him pinned to the ceiling, which was probably kind of an interesting shot to achieve. And then he's like crawling on the walls and shit. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And then he's even thrown through a glass door. So there's some moments in this movie. I was like, damn, dude, 10 grand? That's crazy. And then the last jump scare in this movie where the sheet comes up out of the thing, I don't like. I could do without that. I liked more of the, like, him sitting there in fear, like that sheet could jump up. I don't want to actually see it happen. I want him to look at sheets from now on as, potential threats. Like, look at it, and then it just cuts to credits like, holy shit, like, this guy's scarred for life. But, like, the ghost following him to some new place, it's the house that's haunted. He doesn't follow. Like, for me, that just doesn't work, and I don't like it. It's a cheap jump scare. It's kind of like the title. It, like, feels tacked on for an audience. It's like, don't do that. Stick to your storytelling. All right, I got to get to work. Thanks for sitting through all my stories. I got to go. Adios.